boy, do I feel like the last few weeks have just absolutely flown by. I think we are very overdue for a catch up. In fact, I looked and I think the last catch up episode I did on the podcast was last summer, but don't worry, we are not going to sit here and completely rehash the last year. That would be insane. But I figured it would be fun to do a little spring catch up episode, fill you guys in on what's been going on the last few weeks, give you a couple of little life updates and things like that. I just think today is the perfect time for us to catch up. I always like to say that I hope the podcast feels like two friends catching up over coffee, and I am holding my coffee right now. So grab your favorite beverage. We're going to pretend this is like the one day of spring where our schedules aligned and we're able to do like the full big catch up before summer starts to get crazy and we're not going to see each other until September. So I'm really excited to fill you guys in on what's been going on in life for the last few weeks and also look ahead to some future potential like episode ideas for the podcast, maybe get your guys' opinion on some things that I'm thinking about doing in the future. And speaking of the podcast, Create and Consume turned 2 this week, which is so crazy. We already did a whole episode in celebration of the 100th episode, which was just last month, I believe. So if you want to hear more about my reflections on 2 years of podcasting and reaching 100 episodes, you can go listen to that one. I will link it in the show notes. And then obviously last week we did a big catch up about what's working on social media right now. So I feel like I got to talk a lot about my business, but I haven't filled you guys in on my personal life in a minute. So we are going to be doing that. Before we get into today's coffee chat, big spring catch-up episode, let's first do a little create and consume. One thing that I was creating this week was a mini pack with me vlog for Instagram and TikTok. And normally I do pack with me videos for YouTube as long form vlogs. I personally love watching people get ready for trips. I'm currently filming for YouTube like a post-travel reset vlog / getting back into the routine of things vlog, which I think will probably be up in like the next few days. But anyway, I thought it would be fun to try the packing angle for short form because I usually do it for long form. And I think one reason that those videos tend to do well for me on YouTube is specifically when I include either a destination, a type of trip, or a duration. So for example, one video that I shared last summer that has done well was pack with me for a cruise. I feel like for that specific type of trip, people want to know like, okay, what are you bringing with you? That is cruise specific. And another video on my YouTube channel that's done well was pack with me for a 4-day girls trip like in the mountains. So that's kind of like a winter seasonal trip. You could see it's a girls trip. It was actually for my friend Nora's bachelorette party. And I really like when these kind of pack with me vlogs have some kind of theme to them so I can understand, okay, like where are we going? What season is it? How long are we going to be there? And I think that people really enjoyed that one. And I had fun doing it for short form. It definitely took me less time to put together at the end of the day. And I always enjoy documenting my process for packing as a way to keep me accountable. So I pack probably a little sooner than I would otherwise so that I actually have time to, film and edit the whole process. I'll leave a link to that video in the show notes if you want to check it out. And one thing that I am consuming this week that I actually just finished on Monday was the Aster book that just came out recently on audiobook. Andrew and I had a long drive. I'll tell you more about that once we get into the catch up. And I asked him if he wanted to listen to the audiobook version of this book that came out last year, written by Anderson Cooper and Catherine Howe. And they also teamed up to write the Vanderbilt book, which obviously Anderson Cooper has a connection with the Vanderbilt family. His mother was Gloria Vanderbilt, and he brought in Catherine Howe to help him write it. And then they also teamed up to tell the Astor family story too. So I want to say this audiobook was about 8 hours. We managed to finish the whole thing on this trip. That should tell you how much driving we were doing. And I enjoyed it. I thought that it was definitely interesting to hear kind of from start to finish the whole story. I learned a lot more about the beaver trade process and it's really graphic. Actually, I won't get into it here, but like basically how they would take the beaver's fur and then sell it. And that was the original John Jacob Astor when he first came over from Germany. And anyway, it was really interesting to hear the whole family story and also specifically, hearing about Caroline Astor and what happened on the Titanic and everything that happened in New York. So I really enjoyed being transported into that world. And the audiobook was fun too because Anderson Cooper narrated it. So I thought that it was an extra kind of personal touch where he had an instance where he even ran into Brooke Astor when he was working at a restaurant in New York. So I really enjoyed this one. I mean, I put 3 stars for it on Goodreads, which for me is very like, I liked this book. It was good. I recommend it. And it's kind of middle of the road in a sense because it's not like there was any crazy revelations or that like the writing was so amazing. I feel like it was a good read though. And if you are interested in New York history, if you like kind of the Gossip Girl era and generation vibe, you might enjoy it too. And honestly, I liked the audiobook. That's something that I'm trying to do a bit more of and that I typically try to do with either like memoirs or I guess nonfiction would be another category that I would do. Anywhere where there's kind of like a single narrator or where I find that I'm able to follow the story pretty clearly, because otherwise, I think audiobooks, when there's a lot of characters involved or there's like switching POVs, I think an Ellen Hildebrand book, for example, would be kind of confusing to listen to as an audiobook. Just speaking from my personal experience. And as always, guys, don't forget to let me know what you are creating and consuming as well, because, the whole thesis of this podcast is essentially that we are always creating and consuming things in this era of digital content. So you can leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. You could comment if you're listening on Spotify. You can send us an email. All the ways to get in touch are always in the show notes. Okay, let's dive into our spring catch up, and I'll start by telling you about this past weekend. So, this past weekend, took a road trip with Andrew down to Ocracoke, North Carolina. So, this is the longest that I have ever driven anywhere. And we did split the drive into 2 days just because of the length of the drive and the timing of when we would be leaving and coming back and everything. The reason that we went down to Ocracoke is because my good friend Matt from college got married this past weekend, and his fiance, his husband, Joe, is from Ocracoke. So it was really special to get to go to like Joe's hometown and see this really special place and also see it kind of like in its prime. I wasn't totally sure if the weather would cooperate or not, but I was so happy that they had the best weekend. It was like 70 degrees and sunny, dream weather for a wedding. Truly, like the Outer Banks in general, like every inch of the beach was like shining. It was the perfect location and destination and everything. The wedding was amazing and went so smoothly, but I feel like I should circle back on that. So the reason we decided to drive, I got a lot of comments even on like my packing vlog and stuff, or people messaging me saying, why are you driving all the way down there? Believe me when I say that I did look into flight options, and mostly they didn't really make any sense, which is why we ended up driving. So the way that you get to Ocracoke, which if you are familiar with the Outer Banks at all, like the very, very eastern part of North Carolina, Ocracoke is all the way down at the bottom of the Outer Banks. Like it's the most southern island there. And to get to Ocracoke, you need to take a ferry. There are no bridges or direct roads that lead there. So at some point, you will need to get on a ferry to get to Ocracoke in the first place. The 2 options for the ferry were either coming from the north, you could take the Hatteras ferry, which was 70 minutes. Or if you were coming from like mainland North Carolina, there were 2 options. One of those ferries, I want to say, was from a place called Swan Quarter. That was like 2.5 hours as a ferry. And I think the other one is called Cedar Point. That was like almost 3 hours as a ferry. So just keep that in the back of your mind, okay? So that's like once you actually get all the way down there. But working backwards, the flight options were really either to fly to like Norfolk, Virginia, or to fly to Raleigh, North Carolina. And at that point, it's like, okay, it's still, even if it's like an hour or an hour and a half flight, call it, it's still going to take that time to go to the airport. And then you're going to have the added expenses of the flight if you're going to check a bag, and then a rental car once you get to that just midway point of your destination. So we figured we have a car. We're very lucky to have a car here in Hoboken. Why would we not just take our car that like we're very familiar with, save money on the plane tickets, save money on the checked bags, save money on a rental car, and just do the drive. The only thing I will mention on top of that is once we decided to do the drive, then we did have the expenses of gas for the whole trip, which I think we only had to stop like 3 or 4 times, which I was pretty impressed with. And then also the fact that we did stay overnight, kind of like midway on the route down to Ocracoke, which meant that we had a hotel room for 2 nights, which, we picked a very like basic, just like Doubletree by Hilton hotel. So it was super simple and easy just for Thursday night coming down and then Sunday night coming back up. I still think it was cheaper overall than flying. Also, trying to time flights with leaving Ocracoke Sunday, I feel like would have been insane because the ferry for that we took from Ocracoke back to Hatteras Island to at least get back onto the mainland is first come, first serve. And Sunday morning, we ended up waiting a little over 2 hours to actually get onto a ferry just based on the number of cars that were ahead of us also waiting to get on the ferry. So, needless to say, it's not an easy place to get to. And everyone who was from Ocracoke and who lived there, who we met this weekend, like Joe's friends and family, thanked us profusely for coming and constantly were referencing like in their toasts and stuff like it's not an easy place to get to, but it is a special place once you get there. And it was honestly all worth it. And Andrew and I both were talking about how lovely Ocracoke was and how glad we both are that we got to go there. And I will also say the drive, especially once we got down to Hatteras and Ocracoke, was absolutely stunning. Like definitely one of the most beautiful places I think I've ever driven through. So we left New Jersey Thursday morning. We ended up staying in Virginia Beach. That was like our halfway destination. So we drove down through Delaware and Maryland and Virginia through the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, which was also crazy. Like that is the longest bridge I think I've ever been on in my life. Stayed in Virginia Beach, and then Friday morning continued the drive down to Ocracoke, and we arrived there Friday afternoon. We got ready for the rehearsal dinner, which was a shrimp boil. I was like, okay, we have crossed down into the southern states. I love to see it. That was really good, and that was where some of the wedding party and their parents like gave toasts and everything, and it was so fun. And then we had a little welcome drinks at a place called the Mini Bar in Ocracoke, which is actually right next to Ocracoke Coffee Company, which I very much needed to visit in the following morning. And that was so fun. And I should also add, so Matt is my friend from Muhlenberg, which that is the college that I attended freshman year. So it is in a town called Allentown, Pennsylvania. I only made it through my freshman year there before I transferred to Barnard. I was really just craving being back in the city, getting a chance to like intern during the semester, especially for magazines and journalism, which was more what I was leaning towards versus when I first applied to Muhlenberg and thought I wanted to do theater, and Muhlenberg has an amazing theater program. I actually made really good friends at Muhlenberg, though, as evidenced by the fact that Matt and I are still friends and that we went through such lengths to like get down to his wedding. And so it was kind of like a mini college reunion too, because I realized it would have been 10 years from when we all graduated. Actually, as I'm recording this episode, I know that Barnard and Columbia commencement is happening today, which is so crazy to think about. And I feel awful because we're having a weird heat wave this week for some reason. For context, again, it is May 20th, and it's going to get up to 93 today. It's already 83 as I'm recording this episode, and it's just after 9 a.m., so it's only going to get hotter. And I am also recording this without the air conditioning on, obviously, for audio quality purposes. So let's hope that it doesn't get too hot by the time I finish recording this episode and that all goes well for commencement today. So anyway, it was basically like a little mini college reunion for me from Muhlenberg, where I got to go back and visit quite a lot. And I even visited Matt while he was studying abroad in Florence, because I didn't end up studying abroad at Barnard. So I just like went over my fall break when they were there. So I got to see some friends from my Muhlenberg days, and it was great to like see everyone and hear how well everyone's doing and catch up, because I feel like we haven't had as much of a chance or like reason to get together otherwise because everyone's very spread out. So it's always weddings like this that make you appreciate like getting to catch up with people who were there for like such a significant part of your life. I mean, like being 18 years old and being at college and away from home for the first time, that's a formative and very fragile time, I would say. So it was great, like I said, to see my friends and see Matt and his family and everything. So we had such a nice time. Everything went perfect with the wedding. The dancing was so fun. The soundtrack was great. I literally lost my voice just like screaming all the songs. I have blisters all over my feet and sadly mosquito bites, which again, I thought, oh, that's later in the season. No, it was now. So the one on the bottom of my foot is the one that I'm most mad about, but this is just my reminder to myself to bring and pack bug spray for at least the next few weeks because they're going to start appearing soon. I also really liked our hotel. It was called the Castle Inn and they had breakfast every morning for us, like really good breakfast. And they also were super responsive. Like I texted them asking for an iron very last minute for Andrew to iron his outfit for the rehearsal dinner. And they knocked on our door like literally 2 minutes later with an iron. And we stayed in a room that was recently renovated, which was really nice too. Like the shower was good. The room was amazing, like in terms of size and everything. It even had a sleeper sofa, which I don't know if I realized when I booked it or if they added that after the renovation, but it was really, really nice. And it was so central to most things in Ocracoke. So we were able to walk for the most part, which was great. I am planning to do a full like Ocracoke weekend guide blog post soon. So if you want to hear more about like stuff to do while there, I'm going to make that a blog post. But I figured for the catch up portion of this episode, it would be fun to just like talk about the wedding and oh, and also what I wore. So I ended up posting a Newly try-on for short form that I can also link in the show notes. The dress I'm wearing today, if you're watching on YouTube, was actually one of the potential contenders for the wedding, but I ended up going with this really fun yellow ruffled dress from the brand En Saison. I was honestly just really happy with the way it fit me. Like I honestly thought I looked snatched. I thought I looked great. I loved the ruffles. I thought it was so fun. And the dress code for the wedding was semi-formal. For me personally, like I always tend to err more on the side of more dressed up than not. I hate feeling underdressed. It's, that TikTok trend that's going around right now that's like my horror movies. Like that is one of my horror movies, I think, is being underdressed. And then the other option that I was thinking about too was this beautiful green dress that was like silky. It had a high neck and then it also had a little tail of fabric that was asymmetrical at the bottom, which gave it a really pretty shape and silhouette. That I ended up wearing to the rehearsal dinner the night before. So I got to wear both, which was great. And then this was my other option just in case I needed something else for either event. So I'm really happy that that all worked out. And obviously that you guys are also getting to enjoy this dress too, because this is what I'm wearing to record today. And on the way back, when we stopped in Virginia Beach for the second night on Sunday, we honestly just had time to kill in the evening, and I looked up local showtimes to see if Project Hail Mary was screening nearby, and it was. So Andrew and I got to see Project Hail Mary, and oh my god, you guys, I cried like through that entire movie. I am such a movie crier, especially when I'm watching it in the theater, which I feel like is so rare now because I watch everything when it comes out on streaming for the most part. And just seeing everything like in front of me and oh my god, and I literally cried at so many different points of the movie. I still don't want to like spoil it or give anything away if any of you guys are planning to like read the book and also see the movie or whatever. I just really liked it. I feel like there could have been an inclusion of maybe like 20% more details that were in the book that I feel like didn't make it to the movie, but I felt like the pacing of the movie was great. I thought Ryan Gosling was really good, you guys. I've been thinking about it a lot since seeing it, honestly, and I really, really, really recommend it. So anyway, that was our weekend in Ocracoke, North Carolina, and congrats again to the happy couple, Matt and Joe. I'm so glad we got to attend the wedding and see you guys and celebrate in such a lovely and magical place. Okay, next topic I had for these updates is to give you guys some apartment updates because as you probably know, if you've listened to the podcast for a while or if you follow me on other platforms, Andrew and I bought this apartment last year and we moved in at the end of September. So now that it's been a little more than 6 months in the apartment, actually getting to live here, which during the renovation process, it was so hard to picture like us actually being here. Like I was holding on to the hope that, okay, when all of this construction is done and when we somehow at some point get all of the dust out of here, like we are actually going to live in this apartment. Like this is going to be our literal home. And oh my God, that was such a crazy process. If you want to hear more about that, I have, I believe, 2 different episodes of the podcast. One where I talk about our decision to like buy this apartment and continue city living versus like going out to the suburbs that I can link in the show notes. And then I do believe there's another episode I did that's all about like renovation tips and like what I learned in the process and everything. And I don't know, I'm still having Andrew like put on HGTV. Like last night I requested to put on HGTV, and I'm still just like, could I have an alternate career as an interior designer? Maybe, potentially. We'll see. But anyway, all of that to say that we have been living in this apartment, which is our literal home, for a little more than 6 months now. And I feel like we made a couple of upgrades and like switches in the last few weeks that I didn't get a chance to like fully talk about. I feel like I showed some stuff very quickly in a recent vlog, but the big updates that we made, I think the biggest one overall was actually switching our couch finally. So when we first moved into our apartment in Long Island City, Queens, we got this big gray 3-seater, very traditional looking sofa. It had this kind of like velvety fabric to it, pretty similar to the chair that I'm sitting on right now if you're watching on YouTube. And it was plush and it was nice. The only issue was that, you know, if you both want to like lay down or kind of like spread out, there wasn't really room to do that on that sofa. And we ended up getting a new sofa from West Elm. I was doing a lot of research. It was kind of hard to find something that actually like fit the space and also fit what we were looking for without it being like a massive sectional that I think would have ended up looking way too big for the space. And so we ended up finding this kind of what I think is the perfect middle ground and size of sofa. I wrote down the exact name so I could tell you guys what it is, and I can also put a link to it in the show notes if you want to get a visual of what I'm talking about. So our new couch is from West Elm, and it is the Henry 2-piece Chase sectional. We got it in performance chenille tweed is the fabric, and the color was storm gray. And then we got the chocolate feet. So basically just like very dark brown feet at the bottom of the couch. Honestly, you like can't even see them just if you take a glance around the room. Like they're very like hidden underneath. So I just picked, I think that was like the default color. That was chocolate. And I have been so happy with this couch purchase, especially also since I got some extra throw pillows from Home Goods, because the biggest difference I would say is that the old couch had this kind of like curved plush arm rest at the edge, and this new couch that we got has a very angular hard edge of the armrest, so it's more squared off. The previous one, you could honestly like lay your head against it and it would still feel pretty comfortable. This one, you can't do that. So adding like the extra throw pillows has definitely made a difference. But having the chase part of this couch, like the L-shaped part, where someone else can sit or like just lay back and even just have their knees up, I swear to God, it makes all the difference in the world. Like, it is so nice to have a couch that, you know, if we want to watch a movie, the both of us can like spread out on and everyone has enough room. So it's just the little things, you know? And this is, like I said, we had our other couch for like 6 years and it was from Wayfair. I want to say it was like a couple $100s. I don't have an exact memory of how much it was, but we did make, you know, this was a bit more of an investment, this couch. I think it was like $2,200, which, like, again, guys, why are couches so expensive? Like, that is rent, essentially. That is so much money. But for something that we sit on literally every day, and the fact that our other one lasted for like 6 years, this was definitely an upgrade that like we were willing to make, and I'm so happy that we did. We also got a new rug in there. I believe I found the rug on Wayfair though, because I was looking on Rugs USA and I couldn't really find like the colors that I was looking for, but I'm really happy with the one that I found from Wayfair. So it's honestly like a bigger version of the rug that we originally had in the living room. And then we ended up moving the old living room rug into the office here. So now my desk chair is on a rug and so is my desk. And this one I think was like 5x7. I think the one we got in there might be like 9x12. So it actually spans the whole width of the couch, because this area rug that is in here would have been too small for the new length of the couch, because the back width of the couch is 101 inches versus our old couch, I believe, was only 90 inches. So that extra almost like foot of space on the back side of the couch also makes a big difference. And then some other not as big purchases, but like recent additions that we made involved hanging a bunch of stuff on the walls. In the living room above the couch, we have a bit of a gallery wall in progress. And the reason I say in progress is because number one, I feel like our thumbtack person kind of like put one of the floating shelves not quite where I wanted it to go. I also feel like I got a little bit ripped off by my thumbtack person. Like the hourly rate compared to what it ultimately ended up being sort of didn't add up, but I kind of was just like, whatever at this point, like don't question it, just keep moving. So anyway, the gallery wall, I laid it out on the floor for what I wanted, but because of the width of the couch and like where the gallery wall started, there's kind of like a little bit of a gap in the middle of it where I feel like there wouldn't have normally been one if we had kind of just spaced it out the way that I originally had it. Anyway, it's fine. I think what I'm going to do is end up getting kind of a slim frame to fill in part of the gallery wall. And I'm still looking for certain prints and things that I actually want to put up there. So for right now, I printed out some kind of placeholder photos. Just I might end up keeping some of the photos, but I really wanted to get some prints from Etsy and be a bit more intentional about putting the gallery wall together. So right now I just have some photos from like our honeymoon, from when we were in Italy last year, little things like that that I printed out. And then I also want to figure out how to style the shelves. I want to put ideally like a stack of books on one of them, but I think it might need to be hollow books because again, not totally sure how sturdy everything did end up being, even though I'm sure it's better than if Andrew and I tried to put the shelves up ourselves. So I don't know, there's a gallery wall like in progress, but the good news is that there's something up on the wall, and I just didn't want it to be like we've lived here for 2 years and I didn't ever hang anything up because I couldn't make a decision. So I was just trying to like make a quick decision and at least get something up so that now I can at least modify and edit and go from there. And that's my philosophy with so many things, and even with like content creation and work, is you can't edit nothing. So you have to like make the messy first draft, get it up there and see what it looks like. The thumbtack person also hung a full-length black arch mirror in the bedroom, and he was able to hang it so that it covered the electrical box behind our door. And so now there's a full-length mirror right next to the closet. So as you're getting dressed, you can like see your outfit. This is something that I knew we were missing and that we would need. So I'm really happy that we were able to install that. I got the full length mirror from Amazon. It was super affordable. I can link it in the show notes. And then I also finally chose a canvas piece to go above the black console table in the entryway. This took me forever to choose, and to be honest, it's still not quite what I was looking for. I was hoping I would like stumble upon something, and I did go to like the Grand Bazaar on the Upper West Side. I did try to pop into a couple of like vintage shops and stuff to see if I could find things, but I just wasn't finding what I was looking for. So I ended up just getting something off of Wayfair. Again, maybe in the future, if I'm able to find something else that is the right size that could go there, that would be great. The problem with choosing a piece of art for that wall, though, was that it had to be wrapped canvas because I needed there to be a hollow back to it because that's where the gas on-off switch is. So I can't have something that would be flush against the wall because it would be in the way of the light switch. And I just wanted to make sure that that was very easily accessible should we ever need to use it. So I'm not mad about it. I just would have liked ideally, you know, something with more personality or like to actually like support a real artist versus buying something like that from Wayfair, but it's doing the job and it's adding color to the space, which I feel like it desperately needed. So I'm happy with it for now. Okay, one other thing. So going back to Overcook for a second, the bed at the Castle Inn, it was so comfortable. And I'm not going to lie, when I got back and crawled into bed on Monday night, I was like, this isn't as good as the Castle Inn in Overcook. And our mattress in our bedroom is from a company called Lull. And we had a Lull mattress for years before that from Queens and our other Hoboken apartment. We had the same mattress that whole time. We ended up getting, that was the Lull original. For this one, we ended up getting the Lull premium. I don't know, because we thought it would be better maybe. And Lowell mattresses, I would say, are pretty firm, but this one has been like really, really firm. And when we first got it, it was like, oh, I'm sure you just have to like, after a couple months, it'll get a little bit better. So now that we've come back from the Castle Inn in Ocracoke, where I was like, things could be better. I ended up getting this pillow topper thing for our mattress from Amazon. It has like 34,000 great reviews, and it says that it's cooling and it says that it's comfy. So that is coming tomorrow, or I guess it'll be here today if you're listening to this episode the day it comes out. So I will report back on that. I hope it makes a difference, because it's one of those things that like you kind of don't realize it until you experience something else, and then you go, wait a minute, is my bed like not as comfy as it could be? So I'll keep you guys posted. I'm curious to see how this ends up working out. Those are all of the recent home additions that I wanted to update you guys on, because I do feel like things really are coming together now, which is great. I am still keeping an eye out for a couple more things and pieces. And again, ideally, I would love to like, I don't know, go to the Hudson Valley one day and just spend a day looking around for some of this stuff to see if I could find stuff in a vintage shop or like an antique shop. One thing that I've been thinking about was maybe getting a storage bench for our living room so that we could put, I don't know, just some extra like pillows and blankets and stuff in there in the meantime. And also so that then we would have extra seating for entertaining. Another thing that I was thinking about swapping out is our coffee table. So in our old apartment, we did have space for a small dining table. There really isn't, just with the way the layout is in this apartment, room for that. Like, we do have the kitchen bar stool seating, so obviously there is a place to sit and eat, but I feel like we end up eating a majority of meals at the couch, which is fine, but I think it might be nice to get a coffee table that has a pop-up function, so that then at least, the food is a little closer to us. It's a little easier to eat versus like being hunched over by the coffee table. I don't know. If anyone has a coffee table that they love, let me know. I also think that now in our current apartment, the coffee table that we have had, again, since our apartment in Queens, like when I buy something, I am keeping it around as long as it is still functional and as long as I still like it. The coffee table has a faux marble top and dark wood underneath. And I just think now, with all of the quartz in our kitchen and also the quartz fireplace, I feel like I could swap it for a darker wood or something to not have as much like quartz marble pattern overload, because right now it really does feel like a lot. And I don't know, I was thinking maybe like a bigger round table might be interesting, as again, we have to figure out the pop-up function and stuff, so we'll see. If you have a coffee table that you love though, or you've seen my apartment and have a suggestion for me, feel free to send things my way, because like I said, I'm still kind of on the lookout for this. And I don't know, I'm also thinking about, we have the console table to the left right when you walk in, but there is still a little spot to the right when you walk in, where I'm thinking, oh, could I hang up like a little basket there to put mail in, or hooks for our keys, or something along the lines of like, what you'd expect to see kind of in a typical entryway. So still kind of thinking about that. Still looking for a nice big like utensil holder for the kitchen. I honestly also want to switch some of our kitchen utensils that I feel like are just not my favorite. So those are the little things that I'm kind of still on the lookout for and hoping that I could maybe stumble upon at some point. And then other than that, I also feel like there's a few more things that I've realized there's not a good spot for in this apartment. I already had to take my beloved mirror that was my grandmother's back to my parents' house, because there is just no good spot for it here. And I obviously still want to have that mirror like for a future home if possible, because it means a lot to me and because I think it's gorgeous, but there's just no spot for it here. So like brought that back to my parents' house. And then there's just a couple of other things that I feel like aren't a fit anymore, and that I want to list a couple of things on Facebook Marketplace. And then the last big home thing I really want to figure out this summer is just at least like a temporary fix for closet storage. This closet to my right, if you're watching on YouTube, in the office/guest room, like it's just pillows mostly in there right now, which I think sounds insane, but it's literally like all of the old pillows that were queen size pillows, plus some pillows that we ordered for the California king bed that we didn't like, plus just like extra blankets and stuff. Like, I swear this is like 90% feathers somehow behind me. So I don't know. I want to figure out like better storage for in here. And then also the walk in closet in the primary bedroom. It's just, we need to figure it out because right now there's just that like one wire rack that goes all the way around, and that's the storage in there. But I feel like we need like drawers, we need more shelves. So I want to spend some time figuring out what to do with the closet. I feel like Andrew and I also are both due to like go through our stuff and see if there's anything we can part ways with. I was hopefully planning to do like a whole closet transformation video for YouTube. So maybe I'll try to start the process of that, at least like the decluttering process, sometime in the next few weeks, because that would be fun content, I think, but also it would make my life so much better if I could figure that out. I thought it would also be fun to update you guys on some personal habits and rituals that I feel like have been very much incorporated into my life, especially the last few weeks, that I'm feeling really good about. So the first one is books. I just feel like I've been in such a good reading rhythm with books lately. I feel like I am really focusing on reading what I want to read, not necessarily what I feel like I should be reading. I feel like I've also made really good use of my time listening to audiobooks. So I've already listened to 2 audiobooks this year. Obviously, I just told you about the Aster book in this episode. And I'm sure I mentioned it in Create and Consume in a previous episode that I listened to Ina Garten's memoir also on audiobook while I was doing a drive like to and from Connecticut. And I think that's my new favorite way to consume audiobooks. And the fact that the Aster book worked out for this drive because both Andrew and I were interested in reading it was nice. And I just think that if you have those like extended long blocks of time where you're like, oh, what should I be doing right now? It's pretty nice to be able to just say like, oh, I read a book, even though you weren't actually reading a book. So I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier or not, but I believe with Spotify Premium, I get like 15 hours of audiobook that's included in my subscription each month. So the Aster one, I think, was 8. And again, that might get you like 2 audiobooks a month that are completely free. I think you can also get them, for your Kindle or through Libby somehow, if you use the library and go that route. But the Spotify ended up working out great for me because, again, I'm reading an Ellen Hildebrandt book right now, I think, that I mentioned earlier. And that is such a multi POV, like things are constantly changing. One minute this character's, you're hearing their inner monologue and then you're in another character. And I feel like that gets confusing versus a memoir or a nonfiction book where you can keep better track of what's going on. So that's been really fun. And I am planning to do a mid-year reading update episode, as I typically do. Like, I typically do a start of year, like what I'm thinking about reading this year, and then a mid-year reading update episode for you guys. So that should be coming out in a few weeks. So I can tell you more about exactly what I've been reading and what I have been thinking about everything I've read so far. I have been pretty good with my workouts. As you guys know, I'm a Peloton girl. So I have been doing my usual bike workouts and trying to add strength back in. Ugh, guys, why is it so hard to get back into something once you've gotten off of it? I've literally just been trying to, on Saturdays after I do my longer bike ride, either do 10-minute light arms or 10-minute core. And both of them are, for some reason, so hard for me. But I'm still trying to make a point of doing it. I feel like I have only missed a handful here and there, like since the beginning of the year. So that's been good. And they do also offer some like boot camp courses on the Peloton, which I think could be interesting. I was thinking of maybe doing the 5 days of core one. It might kill me. Like, we'll have to wait and see, but I thought that might be an interesting challenge or just like a fun, very low stakes way to get back into things, because maybe if I just like put my blinders on and do it for 5 days, I'll come out on the other side and then be like, oh, like once or twice a week, this is nothing. I honestly think I feel that way about driving now too. Like, in the past, driving to see like Andrew's siblings in New England kind of felt far, but now that we've driven to North Carolina and back, I'm like, Connecticut, like that's nothing. Like, that's so easy. It really is amazing how relativity can change everything. Also, with the sun coming up super early, I've been waking up early, getting into my day sooner. It's just been so nice to like start my day on a good note and feel like I can get the first task of the day done, whether that's my Peloton workout or like reading a couple pages of my book before the rest of the day kind of starts to kick in. Okay, I've still been trying to make homemade pasta on Sundays. This week I made it on Monday because we were still driving back from Ocracoke Sunday. But this past week was the best texture yet, I would say, of the fresh pasta. And I don't know why I didn't do the math before to realize that I don't need to cook fresh pasta for as long as I cook pasta from the box, obviously. So now that I've been cooking the pasta for less time, I think that was kind of my unlock, and it's going to continue to even just like be better the more that I do it. And I'm hoping to graduate soon to also making homemade sauce. I kind of haven't figured out like how to do them in tandem yet, so I've just been using jar sauces, but honestly, it's still been tasting pretty good. So once I figure out the fresh sauces and the fresh pastas, like, watch out. I am here to take over the world. And then the other ritual is doing my press-on nails. So I think that I finally have mastered this because these have now been on for a full week. I put them on Wednesday before we left for our trip, and everything is still in its place and everything still looks great. And I think some of the best tips that I have now figured out to like make them last longer are, number one, to really take my time picking out the sizes to make sure that I'm picking out ones that fit the best and that are not like too big or too small, because I feel like sometimes that can cause them to, if it's too big and there's a little bit kind of overlay there, that maybe that's easier for it to pop off if it's not like really secured to the nail. Another thing has been really like buffing the nails and getting them rough before actually like putting the glue on. And then the other thing has been putting the glue on both the nail and, the press on and my nail to really secure it in. And then the other thing that I think has really helped has been doing them right before bed so that you have the fewest like hand washes and them getting wet so that the glue actually really has time to dry. Because one thing I feel like I've noticed is if I do them like first thing in the morning and then I still need to like wash my hands throughout the day, obviously, that is giving it more of a chance to lift and like not fully dry, versus if you do it right before bed, it really gives the glue a lot more time to like lock in and solidify, which is weird because when you're normally doing your nails, you don't want to do them right before bed because they need time to dry. But anyway, so those are a couple of tips that I think have actually really helped them like stay on and look good. I really love this just because it's so much less time consuming than going to the salon, and like I can do it myself and I'm more in control and stuff. I will say though, my natural nails underneath are struggling. Like they're shorter and more breakable than I feel like they've been in a while. So that's the trade-off. But for me, someone who has a hard time growing out my nails, it's kind of almost like, well, might as well just put this on and call it a day. And then looking ahead for summer plans, I would also love to hear from you guys. Like, what do you guys have coming up this summer? Feel free to reach out and let me know, because I'm looking for some ideas and inspiration. But honestly, for the most part, I am just looking forward to having a local girl East Coast summer. I feel like we were away so much last summer. We were away for like over a month, I'm pretty sure, in total, when we factored in going to Italy for Nora's wedding and when we factored in the cruise. And then I was also away for Taylor's bachelorette party. Like, I just am so excited to spend summers here, truly. And I feel like we have so many things to do in Hoboken and Jersey City. There's always stuff going on and popping up, which is great. We also can go like see our families, like spend a little time in the suburbs, which is nice. My cousin lives in Asbury Park, New Jersey. I'm hoping to like do a down the shore day to see him at some point. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to like having a local girl summer. Like I want to read in the park. I want to get a sandwich and bring it to the waterfront. Just want to like hang out and have a good time. And as of right now, the only summer trip that is on my agenda is one that I am so excited about, which is that I am going to Nantucket with Andrew and my parents. So the four of us have definitely traveled together before, I think mostly for family weddings, but I'm really excited to take this trip with the three people who mean the most to me in the entire world. And I'm just so excited for a Nantucket moment. My parents took me when I was really young, I think like 6 or 7. So obviously I don't remember a ton about Nantucket. And after just, hearing them talk about it so much, it's actually where they went on their honeymoon. And it's a really special place for them. So to be able to go back like as an adult and actually remember the trip, and obviously bring Andrew too, like I'm just really, really looking forward to it. And it's going to be such a fun time. So if you guys have been recently to Nantucket and have any recommendations for stuff we should do while we're there, please let me know. And we're doing like a little long weekend, which I feel like is going to be the perfect amount of time. So I'm currently on patrol for making dinner reservations for us, because everyone kind of has a different window of when they start accepting reservations. Like some are 30 days before the trip, some are 21 days before the trip, some are 7 days before the trip. And as of the time I'm recording this right now, a lot of these restaurants also aren't even like open for the season yet again. They'll open up after Memorial Day. So doing a little bit of like scheduling Jenga on that front. But I'm really, really looking forward to this trip. And again, I'm just like ready to have an East Coast girl summer. I'm just ready to hang out, be local, maybe take the occasional weekend trip here and there, and just really enjoy living here, because I feel like last summer we were away so much and I was like, wait, I just want to have like one weekend where we don't have anything planned. I think that that can be arranged this year. And then as far as what you can expect from the podcast coming up, I wanted to share a couple of like future episode topics that I'm considering putting together outlines for, to see if there's anything in particular that you guys are like super excited for, because if that's the case, I can like expedite some of these. So I know I've touched on this recently, and I did get a message from someone about this, to do a deeper dive into the idea of city living and also choosing to buy to be like a homeowner in a city versus going to a suburb. And I think there's so much I could say on this topic, obviously. Like, again, I mentioned earlier in this episode that I did an episode where we kind of explained our initial decision to buy within a city. But now that I've got a few months of homeownership under my belt, to really talk more about what it means to be a homeowner in the city, like what some of the benefits are, what some of the maybe like restrictions or things to keep in mind might be with that, and also just why I value city living so much as a person, especially like based on where I grew up, which was lovely, but that was basically like the complete opposite of city living, which is obviously what I've chosen now. So I definitely feel like there's a lot I could say on this topic. And if you guys have any specific questions too about city living or home ownership, like in a city, condo situation versus like buying a house, I'm obviously happy to answer to the best of my abilities. There's still a lot that I'm learning, but I think even just the considerations of like lifestyle and I don't know, meeting your neighbors or things like that, or dealing with like when something's broken and what to do. And there's definitely still a lot that I could say. Okay, now a while ago, I think maybe for the 100th episode, I think I talked about the potential idea of like doing some kind of summer series where like each summer I could pick a different topic and create like 4 different episodes for just a fun topic, so that I could actually take a real summer break from the podcast. Not because I don't love doing the podcast, I obviously do, but just sometimes, especially like even coming back from the wedding this weekend, and we're barely even scratching the surface of summer yet, there sometimes is just travel going on. There's moving pieces. There's times where you think, okay, I would love to like actually take the full weekend off, or like, I don't know, even God forbid I like go out to lunch on a Tuesday because I'm self-employed and make my own schedule. Just like little things like that, where I feel like it would be helpful for me to give myself a little bit of a break and a little bit of breathing room, so that I could come back to the podcast refreshed, but also to make sure that you guys still like get an episode every week. So the reason that I thought a summer series could be fun is because that's something I think I could plan in advance, batch record. So, for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, depending on how long it would be or how long I'd want to do this for, to have those episodes just like all scheduled and ready to go, so that maybe I could even also like get a little bit ahead on some recordings and record, some other things, maybe just like as inspiration strikes versus like, oh my gosh, there's a Thursday deadline, like we need an episode up, like slate panic situation, which honestly happens pretty rarely. I feel like I have really prioritized the podcast and been good about it, but I do think that, like with anything, even as much as you love it, you need a break sometimes. And I do take the last week of the year off, like the week between Christmas and New Year's. I don't publish a new episode, but that's honestly the only week that I skip right now. So I just thought this might be something interesting where I would have a little bit of extra flexibility or time if I were to batch record some episodes like in advance, and then schedule them out over, I don't know, maybe like the first few weeks of July or August or something. So, anyway, some ideas that I had for that, if this sounds interesting to you, I was thinking about maybe doing like a history of art miniseries. And the reason that this came up was because doing the Met Gala episode, was thinking so much about everything that I learned as an art history major and how it really kind of is hard to visualize all of the different periods of art or explain what they were, who the big players in them were, and why they were influential. And I do feel like I've been missing school a lot lately in some ways. Like, obviously, I've gotten to have some recent college reunions and stuff, and listening to even like the Astor audiobook. I do love learning. I especially love learning about history and hearing stories and stuff like that. So maybe I'm also feeling a little nostalgic for academia in that sense. To be clear, I don't ever want to have to take a test or write a paper again, but like to just sit in a classroom and get to learn all day is such a privilege. And I thought, oh, it might be fun to do some kind of like mini history of art series. So I mean, I feel like I could probably do from caveman era up to maybe the very beginning of the Renaissance, and then maybe there's a case for like Renaissance through Impressionist and then like modern. I don't exactly know how I would split it up for sure, but if you would be interested in kind of like a mini summer school, just like the history of art, that's something that I would love to put together. Or I was talking to Caitlin about this yesterday too, because she's been helping me with some podcast stuff. And she was even saying maybe like a history of fashion, like how trends come to be, the history of like some of the big designers. And I could do like an American version, I could do like an international version. And I would also say that for these episodes, I would probably just skip the create and consume section unless I was somehow able to find a bunch of stuff all at once, like, I don't know, a Substack article or something like that. Or when I come back after taking my break, quote unquote, I could do a longer like create and consume at the beginning of the first episode back to be like, by the way, for the last 3 weeks, here are some things that I've been creating and consuming. So let me know what you guys think about that. If you're like, I hate that, I just want to hear from you in real time every week, let me know. That's why we're talking about it. This is a group discussion, so please feel free to talk back. Okay, another episode was my pop culture Mount Rushmores. So my friend Artoon asked me when I saw him over like the Christmas holiday, what is your Mount Rushmore of TV shows? And honestly, I feel like that discussion in itself would make kind of an entertaining podcast episode, because I feel like I have so many potential contenders that would be my Mount Rushmore. So, like my top 4 of all time TV shows for like totally different reasons of what that actually would look like and what that would be. And I thought it would also be fun to do it for like movies, albums, and books also. So I think that would be one where I would have to kind of get the finalists together. I would have to make a list of all the finalists for everything that is a contender. And then the episode would be like me trying to figure out in real time what the actual top 4 are in all of those categories. So I think that would be kind of a fun one to do. Let me know if that sounds like a good one to you guys. And then another thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is like time versus money and how to decide when things are worth both your time and money, because as I get older, I just continue to realize how those two things really are our most valuable resources. And I'm really grateful that I have good examples in my life of people who I think manage their time well and people who manage their money well. And I think that honestly, like if you can master when to utilize both of those things, I think that you can be so much more in control of your own life, and that you can just create more outcomes that you're going to be excited and happy about in life. So I'm going to like flesh out that outline a little bit and see, just make sure there's enough there for like a full episode, or maybe if it's a section of a different episode, I'll figure it out. But I kind of have had that idea percolating, and I feel like just also in this economy and also when there's so much going on in the world, like really trying to figure out where to put your resources towards is something that I think about constantly. So I figured if I do, probably other people do as well. And then just to give you a little tease of what is coming up, what I have on the schedule for the next few weeks, or I guess maybe next week isn't totally solidified, but what I think is going to be ahead most likely in June for the podcast is my mid-year reading updates episode, which I mentioned already. I'm super excited for that one. A summer beauty episode, which I think I talked about in the 100th podcast episode, where I am going to kind of create 4 pillar episodes of the podcast that are going to happen seasonally, where I'm going to do winter beauty favorites and summer beauty favorites, and then spring fashion and fall fashion, so that we kind of have dedicated episodes for those particular topics. So I'm going to put together like my summer beauty essentials, products I've been loving lately, especially, today, 95 degrees. I may or may not be testing some products currently so that I can report back how they hold up in the heat, for example. And then I also wanted to do a little blogging anniversary episode and talk to you guys more about my blog. I've had a couple of really successful months back to back with my blog, and why I think that is, and why I think blogging isn't dead, and why creators could be utilizing blogs. So those are all things coming up in June that you can look forward to and get excited about. So please do make sure you are subscribed to the podcast, whether that's on YouTube or Apple, wherever you are listening and consuming this, so that you don't miss out on those future episodes. And if you guys have any requests for future podcast episodes, please feel free to reach out and let me know what they are. I'm obviously always open to suggestions. And with all of that said, I'm so happy we got a chance to catch up today. Thank you guys so much for listening and for being here. And I'll talk to you all again next week.